Now to the active search underway for 9 migrants unaccounted for after a small fishing boat capsized and then washed ashore in Del Mar, just north of San Diego, California. 3 people here dying in this. The U.S. Coast Guard now saying 4 were rescued and needed immediate medical help. The boat flipped about 35 miles north of the Mexico border, off the coast of California. And officials believe the boat was carrying migrants at the time, but it is not clear where exactly it was coming from. Migrants are increasingly turning to more risky travel by sea, all to avoid heavily guarded land borders. Panga boats like the one that was used there leave the Mexican coastline in the dead of night, heading north to the U.S.
Tonight, the Baltimore Ravens released kicker Justin Tucker after 13 seasons. The Ravens call it a football decision. Tucker is under investigation by the NFL over accusations of improper sexual conduct with 16 massage therapists in Baltimore area spas. He strongly denies any wrongdoing, but has apologized. Baltimore drafted a kicker in last month's draft. Tucker is believed to be one of the best kickers in NFL history. Live look at Washington, D.C., where the NFL draft is set to take place in 2027. President Trump says the popular event will be held on the National Mall. NFL officials expect more than 1 million people to attend the 3-day event.
It's going to be beautiful. It's going to be something that nobody else will ever be able to duplicate that, I don't suspect.
Pittsburgh will host next year's draft. For those of you leaving us tonight, thank you for watching. Have a great night. Coming up next on the National News Desk, a multi-day flood threat for millions just getting going. The urgent warning from the plains through the Gulf. Plus, police in 2 states now in the thick of an active manhunt. Their clever getaway and the public transportation trick caught on camera.
And coming up later, a Houthi missile strike halts flights at Israel's main international airport. Hear from a witness who watched the entire attack happen right from his seat on the runway.
You're watching the National News Desk, America's News Now. The National News Desk, locally covered, nationally connected. Live from the nation's capital, this is the National News Desk, America's News Now. Good evening, I'm Dee Dee Gatton, and as we come on the air this half hour, tens of millions of Americans are under severe thunderstorm threats and many more at risk of life-threatening floods. Let's get right over to the live desk. Ryan, which states right now will be hit the hardest?
Yeah, Dee Dee, tonight the most impacted states we are tracking here from the live desk will be across the southern plains as well as along the Gulf coastline. Millions now forecasted to be in the path of a major, potentially deadly flash flooding threat. Now to East Texas tonight, people right there are preparing for hail, damaging wind gusts, as well as the risk of tornadoes as those thunderstorms develop throughout the morning. NOAA's weather predictor has parts of Texas, Oklahoma, Arkansas, Louisiana, as well as Mississippi there at a level 3 out of 4 risk of flash flooding. with some of those areas expected to receive between 5, even all the way up to 8 inches of rain. Really a 1-2 punch for some out there. Check this video out. Security cameras capturing the scary moments. A volunteer firefighter station, this is out of Jackson County, Alabama. It was severely damaged by those storms as they roared through the weekend over the area. Now to the East Coast tonight, where the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. and surrounding region. Already seeing some hail and damaging storms that are expected to continue throughout the night tonight. More wet weather is expected tomorrow. Not going to see a possible break from the rain until this Wednesday.
A Houthi missile strike briefly halted flights at Israel's main international airport. The attack happening just hours before top Israeli cabinet ministers were set to vote on whether to intensify the country's military operations in the Gaza Strip. The National News Desk, Jeff Harris, joining us. So you spoke with a man tonight, Jeff, who saw this strike happen. What does he have to say about this all?
The word he kept using is surreal. His name is Noam Elia. He had just landed in Tel Aviv on Sunday after taking a flight from JFK in New York, where he works. Now, he says shortly after landing, the strike made impact, followed by a massive plume of smoke. The Houthi rebels have been striking Israel throughout the war in Gaza in solidarity with Palestinians. Now, the attack on Ben Gurion International Airport coming just hours before top Israeli cabinet ministers were set to vote on whether to intensify military operations in the Gaza Strip. The missile launch setting off air sirens, with the projectile landing in a field near an access road leading directly to airport parking lots.
My curtain was open to my right, and boom, I saw it, falling from the sky. And once it touched the ground, I could see like fire and heavy black smoke. It was surreal.
A spokesperson for the Houthi military said in a video statement that the group fired a hypersonic ballistic missile at the airport. Israel's paramedic service confirming 4 people were lightly wounded in that attack. In response to the attack, the Israeli military confirms it struck dozens of Houthi targets in Yemen earlier today. The IDF saying 20 of its fighter jets took part in that mission. At least 1 person was killed.
And developing now, the Trump administration announced tonight Harvard University will not receive new federal research grants until it meets White House's demands. A letter sent to Harvard's president relayed the university is not eligible for grants from the federal government until it demonstrates responsible management of the university. The administration's claims include what they describe as the university's failures on anti-Semitism and its ongoing discrimination on its campus. This decision will not impact federal Pell Grants or student loan funding.
A rude awakening today for millions of student loan borrowers. The Department of Education now resuming its collection of payments, ending an almost 5-year pause implemented by the President Biden administration. TransUnion now finding about 4 million borrowers right now are 90 days or more past due. That is considered seriously delinquent. That's about 1/5 of all borrowers right now. A sharp jump up from 2020, when only about 11% of borrowers were considered seriously delinquent. Now, the Education Department is threatening to cut off federal funding to colleges with high levels of students in default. Falling behind on that student loan debt, that can be costly both in the short and long term. Delinquencies can wipe out up to 171 points on your credit score. And get this, the federal government can start to garnish your wages, withhold tax refunds, even Social Security benefits.
One of Pope Francis's iconic Pope mobiles will now be transformed into a mobile healthcare unit for children in Gaza. The Vatican says it's one of the Pope's final wishes. It's now being outfitted with medical equipment for diagnosis, examination, and treatment of children in the war-torn enclave. It'll be sent to Gaza once safe access is secured. There's a short list circulating for potential candidates for the next Pope, including one from the Republic of Congo, the Philippines, and Switzerland. 80% of the cardinal electors who will have the task of choosing a new pope starting Wednesday were named by Pope Francis. Earlier today, President Trump addressing recent memes depicting Trump as the next pope.
The Catholics loved it. I had nothing to do with it. Somebody made up a picture of me dressed like the Pope, and they put it out on the internet. That's not me that did it. I have no idea where it came from.
The process to find a successor typically takes church officials 2 or 3 weeks. The conclave begins on Wednesday.
We're following new developments tonight on that breaking news story out of Seattle area. Pro-Palestinian students at the University of Washington have now taken over and are occupying currently an engineering building on that campus tonight. It's in protest against the university's ties to aerospace giant Boeing. Now, they are refusing to leave the building until several specific demands are met. We've just learned minutes ago, school officials telling our station in Seattle, police officers as well as Washington State troopers are on the scene right now, and those involved are considered trespassers and will face legal action. Take you out live to Seattle there tonight. A manhunt underway at this hour for an inmate who escaped custody out of Seattle's Tacoma International Airport. Get this, a wild one here. Authorities say this man here, 28-year-old Cedric Stevenson, was being transported to Bowling Green, Kentucky to be booked in on several outstanding warrants. Now, during the check-in process, though, for the flight, Stevenson managed to just flee his security detail and then hop on a light rail train headed right into the city of Seattle. Now let's take you out to Dallas, Texas, where state police now looking for this man here, capital murder suspect Trevor McEwen, after he removed his ankle monitor today, skipped out on his court date. McEwen has admitted to shooting and killing his neighbor back in 2023. Here's one more look at both suspects wanted tonight. As for McEwen, there's now a $10,000 reward for information leading to his arrest.
In a new interview, President Trump says he's not willing to remove tariffs on China to get them to the negotiating table, and argues Americans can learn to live with fewer items. National correspondent Atcha Anashar reports from Washington.
It's early May, but many of America's retailers are urging folks to shop like it's Black Friday. If you've been eyeing something, now might be a good time to make your move, as current pricing remains in effect for now. The luggage brand Base told customers in this open letter about the impact of tariffs. This Hyundai dealer in Melbourne, Florida, advertising a tariff-free savings event. Get your new vehicle before prices change, the promotion says.
We've essentially cut off trade relationships by putting that much of a tariff on, and that's okay.
145% tariffs to be exact. In return, China's imposed 125% tariffs on American goods.
Are you saying Americans could see empty store shelves?
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying they don't need to have $30. They can have 3. They don't need to have 250 pencils. They can have 5. I think we're going to have an economy the likes of which we've never had before.
President Trump now using tariffs to target the film industry. The president says he's authorizing his administration to immediately begin the process of instituting a 100% tariff on any and all movies coming into our country that are produced in foreign lands. We want movies made in America again, he says. It's not clear how import taxes would be applied to movies, especially if only parts of a film are produced in another country.
There's some advantages, I guess, and I'm not looking to hurt the industry. I want to help the industry.
The president says tariffs will create American jobs, but his team is also negotiating with other countries who want tariffs lowered in exchange for more favorable trade practices for the U.S. The White House says they may be ready to release outlines of deals, perhaps with India, Japan, or South Korea, as soon as this week.
Getting better terms of trade is not always a straight line. It's not always a pleasant process.
A process starting to impact Americans' wallets. In Washington, I'm Atrel Nishar for the National News Desk, America's News Now.
Many colleges now hire private consultants to help shape financial aid offers. These firms use algorithms that analyze test scores, family income, even how quickly a student opens emails, all to determine the minimum amount of aid needed to seal the deal. According to the New York Times, the fact-check team's Janae Bowens is back to discuss. So, impact. What does this mean for students and their families?
Yeah, Dee Dee, so aid offers are now highly personalized. Students might see different packages based on their profile or even how fast they reply to recruitment emails. The result, uneven offers, more pressure to respond quickly, and for families, a lot more guesswork on what college will actually cost.
All right, maybe you're looking at college, have a child in college. Which ones charge the most?
Yeah, so according to the College Investor, the top 5 most expensive colleges this year are Vassar College, USC, Colgate University, Amherst College, and Colorado College. Their sticker prices topped $73,000 a year.
Wow. College Board data shows, Janae, a steady rise in tuition since the 90s. What's driving all of that?
Yeah, so a key factor is the 2008 recession. According to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, many states cut funding to public colleges after the downturn. To fill the gap, schools raised tuition, and between 2008 and 2018, public colleges hiked tuition by nearly 40%.
Ouch. All right, Janae, thank you. For more on this fact-check team topic, including links to their sources, scan that QR code on your screen or visit thenationaldesk.com.
Up next, new bombshell developments out of Karen Reed's retrial in Massachusetts. The key witnesses backing the defense into a bit of a corner, and the unusual tools we just found were used on scene, putting some critical evidence into question. All right, day 9 here of Karen Reed's high-stakes retrial out of Massachusetts. She's accused of running over, killing her Boston cop ex-boyfriend. Now retired Canton Police Lieutenant Paul Gallagher was on the stand here today. The defense grilling him about some unconventional methods used to collect evidence at the scene. Gallagher reportedly using a leaf blower and red Solo cups from a nearby officer's home to collect blood found at the scene. It was then transported to the department via paper grocery bags. Gallagher said if they hadn't resorted to those methods, they might have lost some key evidence in those harsh winter conditions. The jury also hearing testimony today from a paramedic who claimed Reed admitted repeatedly at the scene to hitting John O'Keefe with her SUV. Testimony now expected to continue through the rest of this week.
Developing now, attorneys general in 19 states and Washington, D.C., as you look at your map here, are now challenging cuts to the U.S. Health and Human Services Agency. They claim the Trump administration's massive restructuring has destroyed life-saving programs and left states to pick up the bill for mounting health crises. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. restructured the agency in March, cutting 25% of the workforce and collapsing 28 agencies into 15. The lawsuit claims the administration can't eliminate programs and funding that have been created by the government. Fresh tomatoes are being recalled in 14 states. The FDA says tomatoes from H&C Farms and Williams Farms repack due to a possible salmonella contamination. The tomatoes were sold between April 23rd and the 28th, and Williams Farms repack distributed the tomatoes on May 2nd. People infected with salmonella can experience fever, diarrhea, nausea. In rare cases, it can be deadly, especially for children.
The survey up next that'll make any germaphobe cringe, the shocking reasons why some Americans skip out altogether washing their hands. Well, today, believe it or not, World Hygiene Day, and a shocking number of Americans still don't know how or when to wash their hands. Can't make this stuff up. A new health survey just out finding nearly half of the 3,000 plus respondents either forget, we believe that, or choose not to intentionally wash their hands at key times such as visiting a restaurant, grocery store, or the doctor's office. Now, only about 6 in 10, 62%, correctly answered that the proper way to wash your hands is with soap and water for at least 20 seconds. Experts say washing your hands after a cough or sneeze, using the restroom, and handling food will dramatically reduce the spread of respiratory or other dangerous diseases. And you know, for me, Dee, clinically, I'd say OCD, bit of a germaphobe myself, so I'm never not washing my hands. I don't know what method you use. Is it, you know, counting your ABCs, counting down from 20?
Yeah, because we all need a reminder. No, I think that in some cases you really don't need a reminder. I think you make a good point with the restaurant, but some things you just don't, you just know, you know.
What are people thinking?
Yeah,
like, really?
I don't know. We listen, we don't judge. That's going to do it for us tonight. The conversation is going to pick up tomorrow morning, 6 Eastern. But before we go, one last look at America's news and weather now where you live. Good night.